We are back with another deal of the week breakdown. In this video, I want to continue to talk to you guys about what our investors are doing when it comes to short-term rentals and how they are continuing to purchase their short-term rentals, leveraging things like seller credits and negotiating tactics that we can do upfront in order to save you more money. Now, a lot of my real estate investors are purchasing short-term rentals right now. It just seems to be like the investment vehicle that is the one that's going to produce the most cash flow ultimately. And for people, a lot of cash flow is ultimately the key, right? Like our goal is to try to get to, as many properties as we can that are going to continue to pay us cash flow every single month so we can quit our W-2 jobs and, have financial freedom through real estate. So I have a lot of real estate investors that I help structure deals like this simply because we know that it works. And I want to be able to help them scale their real estate portfolios. And so my job is to figure out what kind of financing makes the most sense so my investors can save money upfront and continue to then hold on to more cash that they can keep reinvesting into more and more real estate. Now, the number one thing that I keep seeing over and over and over again is that it's a way, we have a way to find the deal. We have a way to get our investors off the ground. We have a way to find the real estate agent that's going to help us. We have a way to find the bank who's going to fund the loan. But the most difficult part of the entire process is getting the money for the deal. And so if we can save more money up front, you'll have more money that you can continue to reinvest into more deals. That's the reason why I like to structure deals where we can put less of a down payment up front and or get the seller to pay for a huge chunk of the money that you're going to have to spend on your closing costs, right? Like closing costs are the second largest expense besides your down payment when it comes to purchasing a property. And if we can alleviate some, if not most, and maybe sometimes even all of your closing costs, it's going to put more money in your pocket so you can spend it on things like design, furniture, amenities, hardscaping, etc. It's more money back in your pocket that you can continue to then do whatever you want with it. So I'll show you guys exactly how we were able to structure this deal. This one was actually in Bradenton, Florida, which is an extremely popular short-term rental market. I have a lot of investors who have purchased with us in Bradenton. I have an amazing real estate team that covers that part of Florida. So if any of you out there need help with getting a real estate team that's going to help you, send my team a message. I'd be happy to more than happy to make that introduction for you guys. But this property sits on almost 8,000 square feet lot. It's a 1,500 square foot house, and it was a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house. They're going to focus a lot on the design and amenities simply because of the fact that it has a huge lot, and so they can do things like sauna, a little sauna, a steam room, cold plunge, etc. I know that's what's super popular amongst a lot of the short-term rentals nowadays. The house actually only sat on the market for 30 days, but we negotiated a huge amount of money in closing cost credits for this client. We actually utilized a vacation home loan program. Now, a vacation home loan, let's kind of jump into this right here. Loan type was conventional financing. Property type was single family home. And the sales price on this was 4-1. Such a funny numbers. 414,900. And to our surprise, it appraised $100 over, which puts us at an even 415. So 415 was our sales price. But because we leveraged a second home loan on this deal, we were actually able to negotiate up to 6% in money back from the seller towards our client's closing costs. Now, closing cost credits are basically where we get the seller to agree to pay for a large portion of your closing costs in the form of a percentage or in the form of a specific dollar amount. What we then do is we take that money and we apply it towards your closing costs. Now, we can use it towards closing costs, we can use it towards lower interest rates, we can use it towards lower monthly payments for the first 2 years, leveraging specific programs, and then we can even use it towards contractor repairs or invoices paid at closing. So let's say you have a design fee, you have a roof fee, you have painting, etc. that you want done. We can actually pay it through the seller credits at the closing table, which is a cool tip. Most realtors actually don't even know that you could do this. But in this situation, we actually negotiated a whopping almost, I think it was around 18,000 in closing cost credits, which you guys will see here in a bit. Down payment on this, and one of the beauties of the vacation home loan is the fact that you get to put only 10% down. So 10% down on this was 41,490, of course. interest rate on this that we ended up securing was a 7.5% interest rate. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that vacation home interest rates are pretty much the same as what we would get on an investment loan. Second homes and investment properties have relatively the same interest rates. The biggest difference, though, investment properties require an extra 5 to 10% down payment typically. So if we can save more money, why not do it? We ended up doing a 30-year fixed mortgage instead of an adjustable rate mortgage. So this monthly payment for him, principal and interest, is going to be completely fixed. It's not going to change for the entire 30-year term unless he ends up refinancing out. Now, principal and interest payment on this, or P plus I, came in at $2,610 with 94 cents. Homeowners insurance on this came in at $233 with 38 cents. Property taxes came in at $454 with 81 cents. Property taxes are a little higher in this area. And then monthly PMI came in relatively high, I would say. It came in at $233 with 38 cents. The reason for this was actually because our client had a credit score between 660 and 680. Now, it's not to say that a credit score in the 600s is bad or that we can't secure financing. It's just understanding how that affects the interest rate, how it affects your closing costs, as well as how it affects your monthly PMI. And in this situation, is slightly more expensive. Now that puts our total payment at $3,532 with 51 cents. Total closing costs on this were a little bit higher, again, because of the credit score being in the 660 to 680 range. And that put us right at $23,654. Now, because we had such a huge chunk in seller credits at 18,000, we actually ended up allocating pretty much all of these closing cost credits towards the closing costs themselves, right? And we almost wiped it all out. We also had money that was paid from the seller to the buyer in the form of what we call adjustments and other credits. Adjustments and other credits is where we basically have, some sort of closing costs that's given to you from the seller simply because of the fact of the time of the year when you're buying. It's based off of property taxes and sometimes other fees, but typically property taxes. And because the seller had owned the house and then now you're going to own it in specific time frames, again, that's why it's like time of the year. It's more of a title company thing that they'll figure out for us and then say, hey, this is the amount of money the seller is going to be reimbursing you. But in this situation, it was right around $1,500. It was $1,540 with 10 cents. Bam, bam. That put our total out of pocket right around $46,217 with 2 cents. And what I really like about this is that we weren't too far off from keeping it at almost just the down payment, right? Like our down payment was right around $42,000. So we're like $4,000 shy. And in most instances, like where can you get an investment property that your out of pocket is going to be like 11% of your entire house purchase? Like it's not a situation where it works too frequently. But when we have the ability to negotiate a ton of money up front in closing cost credits from the seller, and it's just like, me as the lender, your realtor, and us really working together and trying to figure out how can we make this deal work? How can we make the numbers work? How can we make the loan work? And if the numbers make sense, then the deal makes sense. That I always like to say that, but it's true, right? Like I always look at it as math. This is the reason why I liked to be in the I liked to be in the mortgage side more than I liked to be on the real estate side. And for those of you who have spoken with me, like I actually started off in the real estate side before I transitioned over to lending. And I just liked the lending better because it was all based off of numbers, and I'm a numbers guy. And for me, I'm going to look at the math and I'm going to say, hey, does this deal make sense from a numbers perspective? And in those situations, if the numbers make sense, then the deal makes sense. So that's what I'm here to give you guys guidance on. I want to make sure that, we're ultimately making the right investment for what you guys are trying to achieve and setting you up for success. Having my team and I do a full financial profile, really doing a deep dive into what the strategy looks like and how we can structure a deal to save you more money out of pocket so you could do what? Go make more money investing it in real estate. So I hope you guys found this deal informative, this deal of the week informative. If you haven't seen my other deal of the week videos, go check it out either here or here. But I will see you guys in the next deal of the week.